First of all, thank you, Frank, for having me here. I also want to thank Paula Racy for connecting us. Allison, that was amazing. Thank you for sharing. And lastly, I'm seeing some of my subjects out there. Just deepest gratitude to all of you for being here. I might start crying when I start telling your stories. Um, so in 2016, I woke up one November morning and I'm not going to talk about politics, but I definitely woke up rattled. Um, and I am a mother of three. And I immediately reached out to my community and I was like, the thing that bothered me the most was one, the low number of voters in the election, and two, that we didn't stop to hear our kids' voices. Um, to me, kids, teens, young adults, they are the heartbeat of our society. They are everything, and they are the next generation. So I shot over 300 kids over a period of a few months, and I invited a few right to a studio here in Berkeley. And I set them up and I said, parents are not welcome. I just want kids. Here's a piece of paper. Here is a Sharpie, and I just need to make sure you understand, one, what year you vote, and two, give me one message I can send out to the world. That's your voice. And the kids came in. We had music playing. I have an incredible community. I had a few parents hanging out, and we just kind of walked around and we just tried to, no prompts. This is all their voice, but I really needed them to get a deep and profound understanding of when they vote, because what I was telling them is they vote every single day. They vote in their choices, they vote in their clothing, they vote when they shop, and they deserve to be heard. And so I shot so many kids of color. I shot LGBTQ kids. I shot allies. I shot everybody. I shot kids in Michigan. I just wanted them to have a platform where they could say whatever they wanted. And most importantly, I was hoping that whoever sees these images could just take 1 second and understand that they really do know what's going on. They know what's up. They are constantly being fed information. They're aware, they're smart, they're sharp, and they essentially are the revolutionaries. These are the next generation of voters. So 2016 happened, and we all kind of, rode that wave. And 2020 snuck up on us, and so I really wanted to see where my, voters were. And so I reached out to, once again, my incredible community, the incredible mamas out there. I see a few of you. And I asked if I could go back and photograph their kids on the eve of their first election. So we took these photos in August of 2020. Um, but I started with this young man. He's Jordan. And when I met him in 2016, he he's got this incredibly quiet, beautiful presence, but his eyes are aware of everything. He knows exactly what's going on. And when I reached out to him 4 years later, and I asked him, tell me a little bit about what you think. What is the future you are thinking about? And he said, we are the future of this country. And as older generations leave this earth, we, the younger people, are next in line to make this country a better place for the next generation. I shot this image of Jordan. I'm sorry, yes, Jordan, because I've got his twin brother coming up in August of 2020. He was about to start at Chapman University, majoring in applied human physiology. I think his mom said he's minoring in psych. And I asked him, you know, tell me one thing that you've learned over the last 4 years. And I think his words speak for himself, because this is literally what our kids know. What they know what's up. You know, this is what they see, this is what they live with, and this is what they are literally shouldering the burden of for the next, I don't know how many years. So I'm immensely proud of Jordan.
Let me ask,
Aisha,
let me ask you a question. So, as you're asking the questions, right, of these, are you doing anything before you meet the kids to sort of flush out your ideas, like speaking to your husband or a friend or a colleague? What are the buttons for the kids?
so
Like
for
what do you do for yourself?
the initial project, which was in 2016, there was no button. I said, "What's your one message to the world? Here's a pen, write it out." And parents weren't there, adults weren't there. I just asked them when they were going to vote. When I followed up with these young adults, they're not kids, I guess. 4 years later, I emailed them and I said, I need you to just take a minute and marinate and think about what we've all experienced. If you guys all just go back to 2020 for 1 second and think about what we all experienced in 2020. Now think about what our kids were experiencing and really think about what our kids, our BIPOC kids, sorry, gets we're experiencing and the voices that they have and the voices that they have the courage to share. I am so immensely humbled to be a part of them. Like it is an honor for me to photograph them. It is, they are giving me a gift. They're giving me a gift. They're giving me their integrity. They're giving me their trust. And to me, as a photographer, I think that's all we can really ask for. You know, we create images, we make images, we put images out there for the world to see. Um, but this image of Aisha is one that's incredibly special to me. After we launched this project, I got a phone call from this teacher in Michigan, Adrian, Michigan. And she was like, we would love for you to come to Michigan. I feel like this is something that's really important. Would you come here and do a kids ride shoot? And to that, I said, of course. I had a dear friend. I don't know if Leslie Vaughn was able to come on, but Leslie, if you're here, I'm just shouting you out. Who's like, let's go to Michigan and let's make this happen. So I was in touch with this teacher. She was like, we can do this. And as we're at San Francisco Airport, I kid you not, we're like literally boarding the plane. The teacher is not responding to any of my calls. We are boarding the plane, and then she calls me and she says, they're pulling the chute. I said, who's pulling the chute? She said, this weekend, the school board got very, very angry and they feel that you're coming out here with an agenda and they feel that you're trying to change the minds of our kids. And I said, well, that's really too bad. And I said, is there an image that just popped out? And Miss Aisha, I know you're out there. This is the image that Adrian, Michigan school board was very upset with because you spoke the truth. And it was, if you look right down here, you spoke the truth, Aisha, when you said pussy grabs back. And that was incredibly offensive to the people. And they said, maybe we can do it if you were to Photoshop that out. And I said, well, no, I'm not going to, our women and our women of color already have their voices constantly, covered. I'm not going to cover Aisha's voice either. So I followed up with Aisha 2020. And she is still as badass as she was. And what she said to me when I talked to her, I've got my notes here. But she said, we need to listen to young people because we are innovative like no other generation before us. We are connected and educated in a way no other generation has been. And most importantly, we care like no other generation does. This is our future. These are our ideas. And I'm going to tell you, in May of 2020, I believe, right after the George Floyd incident, Aisha was one of the leading voices gathering her friends, and she was out there stopping traffic at 880 in Oakland. And I am still immensely proud whenever I see her. She is literally a ball of love. So, Aisha, thank you for sharing your voice and your words with
So,
the world.
what was the platform that you were releasing these images on that people got to see them?
I first started with a website and then it was just social media and then on Instagram. And then when we did this story, when I did the evolution of an activist, Okay, I'm just going to put it out there. I pitched and pitched and pitched and pitched and pitched. And it was really hard to get somebody to pick this up. But there was a woman that started a BIPOC story collecting a collective here called RepGo. And she worked with the Chronicle and she picked up this story. And we were able to share these images on the eve of the 2020 election. Um,
So I would imagine each of these kids have a bunch of followers themselves, all their friends and everything else. That did that help, get the word out as well?
It did. When they first started, I mean, they were like 14 or 15. I think I forgot to mention that. I'm just going to go back here. Like Jordan, I think was 14 at this time. And a lot of people started, they had social media. A lot of people had rules around social media because they were so young. But it really was just word of mouth. We had a kidsrise.org. We had a website. And then, it's like you push for a cause and you keep working for it. And then there is a moment of burnout. And so when I came back to this 4 years later, I really wanted to kind of see what these kids were doing. And when I read their words from 2016 and I read their words now, um, it is so incredibly moving, and I'm just so in awe of all of these kids. I mean they really speak for themselves. They tell you like they are the next generation, and as photographers and image makers and people in the industry, we have to remember like what we do and what we put out there. Like these kids have given us the assignment. They're here, and it's our job as the older generation or as photographers to take into account what we can do to use our platforms to really amplify their voices. Um, this is Suhaila. I don't know. Oh, before I forget, Aisha, UCLA, and she's majoring in fine art and minoring in history. I'm so proud of you. Um, Suhaila, I've known Suhaila for years. And one of the ways I got to photograph over 300 kids was really just reaching out to my community. Suhaila is, she had what she had to say was actually super profound. She said, social media has proven to be a valuable resource in the fight for human rights and the pursuit of democracy and equality. Although it's not fully accessible, billions of people utilize it by promoting what's important to them and connecting with people, whether similar or different. Um, Suhaila is currently at Loyola in New Orleans. She is a sociology major, and she is one of the most chill people I have ever met. I love her energy, her presence, and she is just a fighter at heart, which is incredible. Um, Justin is Jordan's twin brother, and Justin, back in the day in 2016, he is a poet, he's an artist. He used to do a lot of spoken word, um, and it's probably one of the most humble kids that I've ever photographed. And one of the things he said that really stuck out to me in 2020 was people should listen to the youth because we are the future. We are the ones who are going to be running everything one day. So I think it's important to voice our opinions on something that is going to affect us. The youth are also just very smart in general. And he's right, Justin. I also really love what he said here because he addresses the stigma with mental health. And I think, for those of you out there who do have kids and those of you out there are kind of, riding out this pandemic, our kids are just soaking in a lot of stuff right now, and they deserve to be heard. They have a lot to say, and I think there's a lot of assumptions that our kids don't really know what's going on, but they are so plugged in and attuned to like the deep core of social injustice and what needs to be changed. Um, Jordan or Justin, I'm sorry, he is majoring. He's at NYU. and he is majoring in recording music at the Clive Davis Institute. And his mom just told me last year ESPN picked up some of his singles. He has been featured in Times Square. He's an incredible hip hop artist. So, if you get a chance, definitely hear what his poetry is and what he has to say. Um, this year, I think Desmond is here, or Davis. I don't know if Desmond's here. I can't remember who I saw, but I got the opportunity to shoot two sets of brothers. Um, Davis was one of the oldest kids I shot in 2016. And also really just a kind soul. And what really touched me the most about many of these kids is they talk about this idea of the revolution and how it truly starts within you. We make the choices we make every day are the paths that we end up being on. But if we can stop within ourselves and just put out an empathetic ear and understand that our story or whoever's story or whomever I'm photographing story is different than mine, and just to honor that, I think that's when the beauty of imagery starts coming out. It's more than just a picture, it's more than just a card, it's more than just a moment. It's actually this like soul to soul connection. um Davis is he's just super cool. Davis,
How much time did you spend with each student?
I'm not sure. Sorry, my screen's doing something weird. Do you guys see it all? Is it still okay?
It's still
Yeah.
fun.
Okay. Um, so with each of the kids in studio, when they came in, probably a minute to 3 minutes.
Wow.
Like I would have an incredible playlist playing. Okay, but maybe it's just me because I am a true lover of 90s hip hop. But good music always. But the thing is like,
Good music.
you know, you just kind of set this vibe and give people a second to connect with you. And I think the whole thing there is trust. I think with the Davis and Desmond's shoot, I also need to shout out my husband, who is one of the most incredible. During the day he's a lawyer, but otherwise, he's the
Funny.
best editing assistant ever. I feel like I cannot give out his name because people will take him away from me. But we would run and get these photos as with a little time as possible because everybody's really busy. I probably had about 30 minutes with Davis and Desmond and Yvette, their mom, that day. The boys, Justin and Jordan, that you saw, that was the night before I think Justin was leaving to go to college at NYU. So I also want to thank the parents that like made this possible, because they really do believe in really getting their kids' voices out there. And they would like drive to the middle of wherever, and I'd be like, "Can I just get a quick shot?" And Seth would hold an Octabank, and I'd have one of my kids. A lot of times, I think Shail, Av, and Omri are on too, but I'm incredibly grateful for them because multiple times they have jumped in and held a bounce or quickly learn how to use some strobes and all of that. So yeah. So Lucy, I met when Lucy was 5 at our co-op in preschool, and Lucy was just one of the kindest little girls that whenever my kid would cry, just kind of Lucy and her friend Layla would always just kind of take care of him. But one of the things Lucy said that really again stuck out for me is, I believe the biggest issue facing my generation is climate change. However, climate change is inseparable from race and inseparable from capitalistic greed and dehumanization. Climate change is a product of so many ideologies and practices that have created the construct of race, dehumanized people of color, and destroyed natural ecosystems. I mean, she just pretty much gets it. This is why we it's not, there's so many different things that we can fight for or things we can put our money into, but really at the end of the day it is all intersectional, it all comes together. And Lucy, is currently at McGill University in Montreal. She is majoring in international development studies. I think Lucy is here too. Lucy, I love you. Thank you so much for stopping in. You're amazing. And Quincy, he's awesome. He showed up at this shoot and he just kind of sat down in 2016 and just like wrote this out. And he like stood in front of my camera and he was like, "What's up?" Um, he I love, when I look at what these kids have to say, and I get it. We live in the Bay Area, and I totally understand it's a bubble, and I totally understand people have called us the People's Republic of Berkeley. I get it. But kids are everywhere and they hear everything. And so when I see and hear when these kids are like 14, 15, and 16, 13, starting to think about this, the amount of awareness to me is unbelievable. And like if we can't hear them and if I can't make an image that can get you to connect for 1 second to just think about what they're saying and like find some sort of empathy to push forward, then I feel like I haven't done my job. One of the things Quincy said that was really, really profound to me was my greatest fear is that the division that I see in this country will go so far that I won't be able to empathize with people that don't agree with my views. In my life, I make it a point to try and hear out people on the other side and educate myself on not just the view that they have, but why they have that view.
So,
Um, yeah.
yeah. So, question: what you're reading, is that something that they wrote and left with you, or is yeah?
That's what they wrote. I had emailed them in 2020 because I was pitching this story and I wanted to get some good pull quotes to pitch. And so I was able to grab, and I was astounded at what they emailed me. Like it wasn't, go ahead, Frank.
No, no, no. I get that. Is there any video? Have you done any interviews? With film or tape?
I need to do video. I hope to do video. I know that there's
Yes.
this next election coming up is really important to me. It's 2024, and that's when our oldest son is going to vote. And I have so many of um, his age group that came in 2016. And so I do think, Frank, that's such a great idea. I would love to figure out how to continue this project and do something with video, or maybe I might pop in and ask one of these guys to help me out. Because, Quincy is at Cal Poly. He's majoring in art and design, and he's an incredible photographer. I know both Davis and Desmond are in video, so maybe we can, start collaborating and start giving this younger generation the platform, especially kids of color, the platform to get their work out there, and get their work out there, get their work seen, get their voice out there, and not just when like some sort of atrocity happens and everybody feels bad and puts like a black square on their Instagram, but really start cultivating these artists and give them the paths that they actually deserve to have, and give them the opportunities that they should have as well.
Yeah,
Um,
to hear their actual voices, because what you're reading is absolutely profound from these young folks, and to hear to hear their voice in that, because what you could do is you could read back what they wrote to you, and how
yeah.
do you feel now, 4 years
Oh,
later?
we can definitely do that. Maybe
Something like that.
24 election, we can definitely try something like that. I need to start dabbling in video. Like I have a lot of video of my dog. Like
Right.
she's very,
No, no, no. I mean, even if we just take a break for a second from the subject here, you as an artist, right? You as a commercial photographer, you need to be in that space, and
yeah,
having beautiful, focused interviews, well lit, on and on and on, is only good for you as well.
absolutely.
I'm going
Absolutely.
to interrupt here 1 second. I don't think you need to videotape them at all. I think they videotape themselves.
Fair enough.
Saves you a lot of traveling, a lot of problems, all those sort of things, and everybody knows how to use their phone,
There
right?
you
And to do some high-end video camera thing makes no sense. These kids have their own video. If they could write down what you just read in an email, they could videotape themselves with their phone and then send you that link. And then you have that.
Way cooler.
And there you then put that together
Way better
because
than what I would
it's all
do.
multimedia anyway. So your photographs with their homemade videos, even better. And you go in there and it's going to just be raw footage of them speaking from their gut instead of you being there and then somebody said, oh, she prompted them. You didn't prompt them at all. They're sending this on their own.
They
Nelson's
totally,
always right. Nelson is always fucking right. You know, for 20 years he's been right. That's a great idea. Great
Thank
idea.
you,
Go
Nelson.
continue. We interrupted. Go.
Well, I'm almost done. This is my last slide. Well, second to last slide. And Desmond is Davis's brother. Desmond, man, he is a good kid. And Desmond and Davis, when they showed up at that first initial shoot way back when in 2016, I saw the two of them sitting at this table for at least an hour before they decided to even write anything down. Their souls are just so rich and so good. And he said, the biggest issue affecting the whole world is greed for status. I think that you can trace all of the most heinous things that happen in the world back to that greed, whether it be climate change or prison labor, the hands behind that have an incentive to make the world a worse place. And Desmond said this. I mean, I think he was maybe 14 or 15 when he said, I hope you realize the system isn't broken. It was built this way. We must fight for the real issues to be brought to light. That is so true, Desmond. And I would like to end on what he said. I vote not to die and not to watch others die unjustly. So that's it. There's a lot happening in the world right now. My asks to you all out there as industry people is please just stop and hear what they have to say. Because if we don't, as they say, I guess on TikTok, we truly miss the assignment, and that's on us. Thank you.
No. All right. So where do you go with this? What's the next step? Is there a book? Is there a writer who can bring you context? You know, where do you see yourself going with it?
I think the next step is 2024. I would like to do a book of portraits of that group of voters. And yes, I would love to eventually do a book and put these images together. I don't know, like in a perfect world, like, yes, I want people to see this and think about this before they go vote and understand the impact of policy change. And, I want kids to understand that their voice is essentially their vote. I remember I once had an undocumented kid say to me at one of my he's like, I don't vote anyway, so what's the purpose? And that's exactly when I told him, like, if you're buying Nikes, if you're buying Adidas, or if you're shopping at Target, or if you're shopping at Macy's, like, that's all the vote. If a bunch of undocumented kids like you decided not to shop at Target, wow, that would make a big change. So it's just having them understand the power of their voice, and collectively coming together, I think is really important. But we'll see. I think, with photography, I kind of call it I guess my fifth kid, because definitely my dog is my fourth, who takes up half my time. But with photography, we have to hone it. And there are times where you just sometimes need a little bit of space. I think, as creatives, and I'm seeing some of my roster mates out there, and they're such incredible photographers. And, sometimes we all kind of hit a wall and we're not quite sure what to do next, or, we're always chasing the next image or the next thing. And sometimes I feel like I need to step back and marinate. But, why do we do this? Photography can be lucrative. It's not, editorial certainly not lucrative, but, we do it for hope.
So is there a space where you see yourself becoming an advocate in this category? Like you started a beautiful project, like so many photographers, they shoot something and it changes them into being an advocate for that particular issue. It could be climate change, it could be unwed moms, It could be domestic violence like Donna Ferrato, where it really becomes, something bigger than where you started it, but now you're an advocate in that space and you start to own that space. Can you see that happening to you?
I guess so. I don't think I can own any space, but I think for me, I am just such a strong backer of getting people out there to vote, getting kids the right to vote, getting kids in areas in this country that don't have a fair opportunity to vote the right to vote. And that is happening everywhere. If I can take my photography and maybe take this project to certain places in this country, where people may be scared to vote or kids don't have, I mean, there's just so much happening, but it is just not a choice, it's a right. Their voices are you have to understand and be able to have the opportunity, and the chance to vote. But also, I really hope that people that are not in the BIPOC community can take a second and understand and hear that there are different challenges that people of color and kids of color face, growing up, that just is just, like, people won't understand unless they take one extra second to look and just understand why Desmond is saying that, and not because of what you see on the news and not because of this and not because of that, but like, just understand that, like, he's a kid, he has every right to a beautiful life like everybody else, but you know what, he's a kid that really is thinking about this idea where he needs to vote not to die. And if
I'm going to interrupt you for a second.
Nelson has
Yeah.
a question.
How many people did you photograph so far?
About 300.
And how many have you been in touch with since then?
A lot of the kids in the Berkeley and the Bay Area I've been in touch with.
So a number, 100?
Maybe.
Maybe 100.
Yeah.
So have you ever seen the documentary film made in the 50s called The 7-Ups?
No, I have not.
All right, so you could probably find that online. The 7-Ups is one of the greatest documentary films ever made. It's taken 7 kids in England and following them through their 40s. And they're 7 years old, and every 7 years it touches base with these 7 kids way into their 50s, right? So this is a project for you that's super long term. It doesn't end in a year, 5 years, or 2024, whatever. To speak to these kids every 4 years for the next 50 years, that's a project, right? To pick 10 or 15 of these kids to see where they go, what they become, how they feel about politics, what they said when they were 16 and what they say when they're 50, 60. That's, every photographer has their long-term project. They do their commercial work, they do their little projects, and then every single photographer that I know that's worth their salt has that long-term project. They don't do it every day, but they do it maybe once a year, once every 2 years, and they just keep adding to it. Sometimes nothing happens with those projects, but this is one of those projects where to follow up with 10, 20, 30 of these kids, that they stay in touch with you for that amount of time, that when you're 70, they're 50, and you're still working on this, that's what this is really all about. Not about 2024. It's about 2074, right?
Great idea.
So go try and find the 7-Ups. It was made in England, and watch that film. It started in the 50s, I think. Maybe somebody else here in this chat knows, but what a great series. And
I will definitely do that.
This is what your project's about. 2024 is literally just stage 2.
Right.
2020, 2024, 2028. So this is your long-term project, right? Let them make their own videos. Why do you even want to get involved in that? You just want to edit them. You don't want to buy any more equipment, anything like that. It's expensive enough just to own a good camera, and some good lights. So let them supply the videos. All you have to tell them is stand next to a window where the light isn't so harsh. So it's soft, like the light that you're creating with your flash. So it's all has this consistent feel. You know, they're not backlit and they're not sitting in shadow. They're not under a blanket in their bed or something, you know, even though that would be cool with a flashlight. But there's just an idea that I'll throw out to you.
Yeah, terrific idea. Nelson is the best.
You, and I would love to just kind of talk to you about that. That's fantastic.
Sure. So Frank, put her in touch with me because a friend of mine's wife is involved with every local election around the country. So
okay, we'll make that happen.
yeah, she's a major player in local elections all around the country. So maybe you guys could do something together, but you know.
Thank you.
So put her email and then I'll talk to my friend and see if his wife has any interest in this.
Yeah, and that's for everyone who doesn't know, that's Nelson Beckerman, who's just like the greatest. Really